Nanda Shri Advaita Sabi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We're going to continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 22, Text 23. Arthendriyarama Sagoshtriyat Srinaya.
अर्थे इंद्रिया रसगोष्ठी अर्थेनया
Tatsammatanam apigrahena cha.
तत्सम्मतानाम् अपरिग्रहेण
Vivektaruchya paritosha atmani.
विवेक्त्यरुचो परितोषे आत्मनि
Vina harirguna payusha pana.
विना हरे पीयूषपानात्.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. One has to make progress in spiritual life, not by associating with persons who are simply interested in sense gratification and making money. Not only such persons, but one who associates with such persons should be avoided. One should mold his life in such a way that he cannot live in peace without drinking the nectar of the glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari. One can be thus elevated by being disgusted with the taste for sense enjoyment. So this is what, who's speaking this? Does anyone remember?
The four Kumāras.
That's right. Yeah, four Kumāras are speaking. Sanat Kumar is speaking to Pṛthu Mahārāja. In the material world, everyone is interested in money and sense gratification. The only objective is to earn as much money as possible and utilize it for the satisfaction of the senses. Srila Sukadeva Goswami thus described the activities of the materialistic person. Nritya hriyate naktam vyavayena cha vavayaha diva charte haya rajan kutumba bharanena va. Bhagavatam 2:1-3. This is a typical example of materialistic persons. At night, they waste their time by sleeping more than 6 hours or by wasting time in sex indulgence. This is their occupation at night. And in the morning, they go to their office or business place just to earn money. As soon as there is some money, they become busy in purchasing things for their children and others. Such persons are never interested in understanding the values of life. So what is the value of life? What is God? What is the individual soul? What is its relationship with God, etc.? This is what the human life is actually for. To understand, who is God? Who is the soul? What's the relationship between God and the soul, individual soul? Things are degraded to such an extent that those who are supposed to be religious are also at the present moment interested only in sense gratification. The number of materialistic persons in this age of Kali has increased more than in any other age. Therefore, persons who are interested in going back home, back to Godhead, should not only engage in the service of realized souls, but should give up the company of materialistic persons whose only aim is to earn money and employ it in sense gratification. So then we may say, oh, but wherever we go, there's, people, how can we give up the association? What does it mean? How can we practically do that? Well, the idea is we should not take guidance from them for spiritual life. Rather, we can give them our association. Yeah. So, therefore, it is stated, Bhakti prashanubhavo viraktir anyatra cha. Bhagavatam 11:2-42. To advance in devotional service, one should be uninterested in the materialistic way of life. That which is the subject matter of satisfaction for the devotees is of no interest to the non-devotees. So we had heard the other day, association with pure devotee, service to the devotee, and Srila Prabhupada said the service to the devotee means also hearing from the devotee. That is service to the devotee. Hearing from them. Simple negation or giving up the company of materialistic persons will not do. We must have engagements. Sometimes it is found that a person interested in spiritual advancement gives up the company of material society and goes to a secluded place as recommended for the yogis especially. But that will also not help a person in spiritual advancement. For in many instances, such yogis also fall down. It's like people will say, I'm going to renounce the world. I'm going to, go alone somewhere lonely. And Prabhupada is putting up that, that also is not going to work. As far as jnanis are concerned, generally they fall down without taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. So the yogis are falling down. And the jnanis also. Why? Because I haven't surrendered to Krishna. I've not taken shelter of lotus feet of Krishna. There's no positive activity. Simply negation of activity is not going to do anything for us because the soul can't be inactive for very long. So we may say, oh, I'm going to give up the material world. I'm renouncing the world. Like Arjun wanted to do. He wanted to renounce the world. Krishna told him, better you do your duty. Fight for me, for my satisfaction. So the positive engagement in Krishna consciousness is needed. Hearing from the devotees, chanting. The impersonalists or the voidists can simply avoid the positive material association. They cannot remain fixed in transcendence without being engaged in devotional service. The beginning of devotional service is to hear about the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is recommended in this verse. Vina harer guna piyusha panat. One must drink the nectar of the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this means that one must be always engaged in hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. So this is positive engagement. Always hear and chant about the Lord. It is the prime method for advancing in spiritual life. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also recommends this in the Caitaniya Caritamita. If one wants to make advancement in spiritual life, by great fortune, he may meet a bona fide spiritual master and from him learn about Krishna. By serving both the spiritual master and Krishna, he gets the seed of devotional service, Bhakti Lata Bij. And if he sows the seed within his heart and waters it by hearing and chanting, it grows into a luxuriant Bhakti Lata or Bhakti Kripa. So Lord Chaitanya says in Caitaniya Caritamita that it's by great fortune that one gets the association of a spiritual master. And then by the mercy of the spiritual master and Krishna, one gets this Bhakti Lata. Brahma Bhumite, Brahmanda Bhumite, Kaun Bhagyavan Jiva, Guru Krishna Prasade Paya Bhakti Lata Bija. So we are advised to sow the seed of bhakti in our heart. And how can we water it? The watering is, what is the watering of the seed of the Bhakti Lata Bij?
Chanting Hare Krishna.
Hearing and chanting.
That's right, hearing and chanting. And then the creeper grows. The creeper is so strong that it penetrates the covering of the universe and reaches the spiritual world and continues to grow on and on until it reaches and takes shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. Just as an ordinary creeper also grows on and on until it takes a solid shelter on a roof. Then it very steadily grows and produces the required fruit. So in the material world also, the creeper will grow and is always going to search for some support. And once it finds the support, then the creeper really actually grows, becomes luxuriant, will have more leaves, more flowers. So this Bhakti Lata, it reaches the spiritual world and takes shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. Then it will give us the fruits, the flowers, the fruits. The real cause of the growing of such fruit, which is here called the nectar of hearing the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is to water the creep of devotional service by hearing and chanting. The purport is that one cannot live outside the society of devotees. One must live in the association of devotees, where there is constant chanting and hearing of the glories of the Lord. The Krishna consciousness movement is started for this purpose, so that hundreds of ISKCON centers may give people a chance to hear and chant, to accept the spiritual master, and to disassociate themselves from persons who are materially interested. For in this way, one can make solid advancement in going back home, back to Godhead. So associating with the devotees, hearing and chanting in the association of devotees. This is what Sanat Kumar is saying to Pṛthu Mahārāja. Ahimsaya parahamsaya charyaya
Ahimsaya paramhansacharya
nitya mukunda charita greya sidhuna.
mritaya
Ya
mukunda
Mukunda
acharitagraya
Yame rakame niyameschapi anindaya.
akaminiyame cha
Nirhi nirihaya dvandvatite kshaya cha.
niriyaya
A candidate for spiritual advancement must be non-violent, must follow in the footsteps of great acharyas, must always remember the nectar of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, must follow the regulative principles without material desire, and while following the regulative principles, should not blaspheme others. A devotee should lead a very simple life and not be disturbed by the duality of opposing elements. He should learn to tolerate them. The devotees are actually saintly persons or sadhus. The first qualification of a sadhu or devotee is ahimsa or non-violence. Persons interested in the path of devotional service or in going back home, back to Godhead, must first practice ahimsa or non-violence. Non-violence. And then someone will say, but Krishna himself is telling Arjuna, you fight. Bhagavad Gita, we are preaching every day. Foundation is Bhagavad Gita. And there Krishna is saying, you fight. That's violence. But here, devotee is supposed to be non-violent. And then, how to do? How can we understand it?
because in Bhagavad Gita Krishna is telling Arjuna to do his duty. That is his duty.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
Because he was a Kshatriya.
That's right. That's right. Thank you. So then, a sadhu is described as Titikshava Karunika. Bhagavatam 3:25-21. A devotee should be tolerant and should be very much compassionate toward others. Tolerant and compassionate. For example, if he suffers personal injury, he should tolerate it. But if someone else suffers injury in the devotee, need not tolerate it. So tolerating for himself, when the devotee is injured by himself, he tolerates. Any example?
Kunti Maharani tolerated when she was suffering. She did not do anything. She just tolerated.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Kunti Maharani tolerated. Haridas Thakur, he tolerated being beaten. And he was compassionate to the people who were beating him. Yeah, Haridas Thakur. And then, but if someone else suffers injury, the devotee need not tolerate it. Does anyone know which pastime?
Is it the one like when they were saying something about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and they didn't listen? I'm forgetting the name. Then we can just come up and we can stand for it. That how can you say like that? I'm
Chaitanya
forgetting.
Mahaprabhu. Yeah. Yeah, when Madai, he hit Nityananda, Lord Nityananda with the pot, Nityananda started bleeding. And Lord Chaitanya was going to remove his Sudarshan Chakra to kill him. You know? So Lord Chaitanya, he could not tolerate that Lord Nityananda has been hurt. So the devotee tolerates for himself, but when he sees someone else being hurt, he does not tolerate that. The whole world is full of violence, and a devotee's first business is to stop this violence, including the unnecessary slaughter of animals. A devotee is the friend not only of human society, but of all living entities, for he sees all living entities as sons of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He does not claim himself to be the only Son of God and allow all others to be killed, thinking that they have no soul. This kind of philosophy is never advocated by a pure devotee of the Lord. You know, the devotee doesn't say, oh, yeah, I'm only the Son of God, and everyone else, no one else is a soul, no one else belongs to Krishna. No, devotee says, not only me, but everyone, each and every living entity is part and parcel of Krishna. Surida Sarvadehinam, a true devotee is the friend of all living entities. A true devotee is the friend of all living entities. Why? How come he is called the friend of all living entities?
Because he wants everyone to connect with Krishna, to serve Krishna, to go back to Godhead.
Yeah, that's right. To be situated in the original constitutional position. Then automatically their suffering will end. So he's the best friend. He's helping everyone suffering to end and get reunited with Krishna in the constitutional position. Krishna claims in Bhagavad Gita to be the father of all species of living entities. Aham bija pradapita. Krishna says that. Consequently, the devotee of Krishna is always a friend of all. This is called ahimsa. Such non-violence can be practiced only when we follow in the footsteps of great acharyas. So we don't have to imitate. We can't imitate. We follow. Mahajano yena gata sapantha. Following the footsteps, not imitating. Therefore, according to our Vaishnava philosophy, we have to follow the great acharyas of the four sampradayas or disciplic succession. So who do we follow? The great acharyas of the four sampradayas. The four bona fide sampradayas. Trying to advance in spiritual life outside the disciplic succession is simply ludicrous. It is said, therefore, Acharyavan Purusho Veda, one who follows the disciplic succession of acharyas, knows things as they are. Chandogya Upanishad 6.14.2. So Chandogya Upanishad is saying that when one follows the disciplic successions, when one follows the great acharyas, then he knows the truths. Why? He knows the Vedas because he's following the great teachers who are following the Vedas. So by simply following them, he also knows. Tad Vijnanartham sa gurum eva vikachet. In order to understand the transcendental science, one must approach the bona fide spiritual master. Mundaka Upanishad 1-12. So it's not only Krishna who is saying, Krishna himself, he says in Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, text 34, that, you can understand the truth only when you approach a Tattvadarshi. So even Mundaka Upanishad is saying, if we at all want to understand the truth, transcendental science, then we need to approach a bona fide spiritual master. The word smritya is very important in spiritual life. Smritya means remembering Krishna always. Life should be molded in such a way that one cannot remain alone without thinking of Krishna. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, no? Which is the word that he says about thinking?
Manmana bhavam bhakto.
Yes, thank you. Always think of me. Now, always think of me. Then Prabhupada is saying how we can always think of Krishna. Then we have to mold our life in such a way that we will always think of Krishna. We should live in Krishna so that while eating, sleeping, walking, and working, we remain only in Krishna. Our Krishna Consciousness Society recommends that we arrange our living so that we can remember Krishna. In our ISKCON society, the devotees, while engaged in making spiritual sky incense, are also hearing about the glories of Krishna or his devotees. The Shastra recommends Smartavya Satatam Vishnu. Lord Vishnu should be remembered always, constantly. Vismartavyo na jatu. Vishnu should never be forgotten. That is the spiritual way of life, smritya. So always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. And to be able to do that, we need to mold our lives accordingly. This remembrance of the Lord can be continued if we hear about him constantly. It is therefore recommended in this verse, Mukunda Charitagriya Siddhuna. Siddhu means nectar. To hear about Krishna from Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita or similar authentic literature is to live in Krishna consciousness. So constant hearing from the scriptures. Such concentration in Krishna consciousness can be achieved by persons who are strictly following the rules and regulative principles. We have recommended in our Krishna consciousness movement that a devotee chant 16 rounds on beads daily and follow the regulative principles. That will help the devotee be fixed in his spiritual advancement in life. So, chanting 16 rounds and follow the 4 regulative principles. It is also stated in this verse that one can advance by controlling the senses, yame. By controlling the senses, one can become a Swami or Goswami. One who is therefore enjoying this super title, Swami or Goswami, must be very strict in controlling his senses. So it's not, that, somebody should be called Goswami, Swami, just to get some cheap adoration from others, some cheap worship from others. No, it means he's really controlled his senses. As Srila Rupa Goswami in the first verse, Vacho Vegam, Krodha Vegam, what is that? The one who has controlled his senses, the mind, the anger, the genitals, then he becomes a Goswami and he's eligible to make disciples all over the world. Indeed, he must be a master of his senses. This is possible when one does not desire any material sense gratification. If by chance the senses want to work independently, he must control them. If we simply practice avoiding material sense gratification, controlling the senses is automatically achieved. So Srila Prabhupada is saying, give the senses some engagement, engage them in hearing, chanting, seeing the deity, associating with devotees, like that. Giving positive engagement to the senses. Another important point mentioned in this connection is anindaya. We should not criticize others' methods of religion. There are different types of religious systems operating under different qualities of material nature. Those operating in the modes of ignorance and passion cannot be as perfect as that system in the mode of goodness. So we need not criticize anyone. We simply have to engage in devotional service. We don't need to. Rather, it said we should not. Prabhupada is pointing here. In Bhagavad Gita, everything has been divided into 3 qualitative divisions. Therefore, religious systems are similarly categorized. Why? So that anyone, whatever position one is in, can begin the spiritual journey. You know, no one is barred, no one is, what do you say, banned from taking up spiritual life. Rather, each of us is encouraged from whatever point in our evolutionary process we are in, evolution of consciousness. Wherever we are encouraged to take up from that point. When
Very
people are
nice.
mostly,
Really
I'm
nice. The
sorry.
way it's been put. No, the way it's been put here, that
Yeah,
every person, can follow
I
somehow. Very nice.
I remember when Prabhu came, Attika Prabhu, he said that even the animals are in 3 different gunas. Even the animals.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he was telling that he was just asking that, okay, now tell me that which one do you think is in the sattva gun, rajogun, and tamogun. So even the animals are divided into gunas according to their gunas.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. The gunas are there. We don't even understand. We are not able to realize how much effect of the guna is. They are there in every aspect of our life, every aspect of material life. And that's how Krishna is speaking about that in Bhagavad Gita, how we speak, what we eat, what we give away, you know,
Yeah, the
everything.
austerity, sacrifice, and everything done in the 3 gunas. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. When people are
Mm.
mostly under the modes of passion and ignorance, their system of religion will be of the same quality. A devotee, instead of criticizing such systems, will encourage the followers to stick to their principles so that gradually they can come to the platform of religion and goodness. Like Prabhupada would say, if you're a Christian, you be a good Christian, follow what Jesus Christ has said. You don't need to convert, just follow. If you're following Islam, follow what the Quran is saying, what Muhammad is saying. Just follow. Thus, a devotee should tolerate and learn to stop agitation. Simply by criticizing them, a devotee's mind will be agitated. So we don't need to criticize and agitate our mind. Another feature of the devotee is nirihaya. Nirihaya. Simple living. Niriha means gentle, meek, or simple. A devotee should not live very gorgeously and imitate a materialistic person. Plain living and high thinking are recommended for a devotee. He should accept only so much as he needs to keep the material body fit for the execution of devotional service. So, how we can understand this is if somebody already has them, then he just engages in devotional service. He does not need to artificially renounce, rather, engage everything in Krishna's service. Like we see Pundarika Vidyanidhi, such a great, he's Rishabhanu, after all, the mother of Radharani. I'm sorry, the father of Radharani. But he was living so gorgeously that he had even golden pan to spit out the pan, that the container was also made of gold. He was living so opulent. Well, because he had the opulence. But he was a pure devotee, so he was engaging everything in Krishna's service. Oh, I'm sorry, the time is up. I just realized that. What do you all want to do?
I think we can finish this one. It's just a little.
Okay. All right. So then he should accept only so much as he needs to keep the material body fit for the execution of devotional service. So no need to extra going out of the way, like Madhavendra Puri, or even in the 11th canto, the example of the python is given, that get enough. Don't overdo it. Get enough, whatever is needed. But of course, if you have more, whatever it is, engage in Krishna's service. He should not eat or sleep more than is required. Simply eating for living and not living for eating, and sleeping only 6 to 7 hours a day are principles to be followed by devotees. Now, someone may actually need more than 6, 7 hours. We have to use our own discretion. Not that we say, oh no, I can sleep only 6 and then we fall sick. No, that we have to understand, because everyone's quota is different. What is too much for someone may be too little for someone else. So eating and sleeping is, we need to adjust it practically. As long as the body is there, it is subjected to the influence of climatic changes, disease, and natural disturbances. The threefold miseries of material existence. We cannot avoid them. Sometimes we receive letters from neophyte devotees questioning why they have fallen sick, although pursuing Krishna consciousness. They should learn from this verse that they have to become tolerant. Dvandva titikshaya. This is the world of duality. One should not think that because he has fallen sick, he has fallen from Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness can continue without impediment from any material opposition. Yeah, it doesn't mean that if one falls sick, one is not Krishna conscious. If a pure devotee has fallen sick, or he's, no. There's nothing material that can stop Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is on the spiritual platform. Our Lord Sri Krishna therefore advises in Bhagavad Gita 2.14, Tam Stitikshasva Bharata. My dear Arjuna, please try to tolerate all these disturbances. Be fixed in your Krishna conscious activities. So whether it's too hot, too cold, whatever it is, we continue with hearing and chanting. Tolerate everything else, but continue hearing and chanting. Continue Krishna consciousness. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Hare Krishna.